You are now listening to Carlie's Couch with Lextopia.
And CC Fierce. Are you reflecting or are you ruminating? This week we explore the difference and discuss some steps to help you process. Hola.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lextopia.
I'm CC Fierce.
And we have a great episode for you today. What were you about to say?
As I was saying, we're excited that you're tuning in with us. And we have a great episode for today. So this week I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about or like how things can be helpful, because we always try to provide content that's relevant, but also that is helpful in your life. And something that I've been pondering lately is reflection. I was talking to one of my friends. I'm trying to process everything that's happening in general, but in particular, like in my life, there's this situation that I'm trying to process, and I keep on going back and forth about it. And I was talking to one of my friends, shout out to Jay, all the way in China, and he was like, bestie, like you're not really reflecting anymore, you're ruminating. And I was like, like, what do you mean? He was like, well, it sounds like you're, stuck on it. You're kind of just spinning your wheels, and that at that point, it stops becoming helpful for you. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I've been sitting with this concept of reflecting, because I think reflection is such a great tool for personal development, like looking back at situations, thinking about where you might have been putting your expectations on people, or where you might have misunderstood something or took something personally that really wasn't, and also using those points for growth. But when he said I was ruminating, I was like, wow, it really is something I feel like I was stuck in. And so I wanted to discuss the difference today and kind of help walk you through like what that might look like in some situations that you might be processing in your life.
Yeah, and I love that story because I think a lot of times, especially as people who think that or consider ourselves to be very self-aware, and we try to study the mind and study how things work and improving our lives and things of that nature, that something like the fact that you're ruminating is kind of only something that somebody can tell you from the outside. So it's always important to, like, in your self-improvement and, you're getting better, that we are always still taking time to talk to other people and reflect. I don't hope I didn't mess that up with the definition, but like reflect with other people and talk to other people. And that's why I think people are important, because those types of things that are patterns, I feel like other people see the patterns and sometimes we don't see the pattern. Like we're just stuck in like the same type of thing and feeling like we're doing something, but it's like, nah, girl, like I'm tired of every time we talk, like it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. And like, I like that you brought up patterns in yogic like studies. They're called samskaras, and they're like traumas that we just like continue reliving until you learn the lesson. Basically, you're going to get the same lesson every single time until you elevate. It's kind of like leveling up in a video game. You're going to keep continuing doing the same things. But I think reflection is super important and something that people can miss, because life is always going a million miles an hour. And when we stop, like rarely are we still, but when we're still, like, are we reflecting on things and like looking at situations with a bird's eye view and trying to think about like how we can get better and do things. And so when I started researching this, because I'm a nerd, I was like, man, I want to bring some heat. One quote that I found about self-reflection is, it's really valuable, especially when our expectations don't match our experiences. And thinking critically about this disconnect can help us
What does that really mean?
So
as I was reading it, I didn't even really get it.
So we did a whole episode about expectations. If y'all haven't listened to that, I think it was like 2 episodes ago. So make sure to go check it out. Lex has some gems on that one, telling people to manage their expectations. I actually listened to it a few times after that. So go check that
Really?
out. Yes, I did. And I got a few text messages about it too. But it's like saying, okay, so for example, if we have expectations of a friend or a romantic partner and we don't tell them, and then they don't do them, now all of a sudden we're upset. If we never, like, then our expectations don't match our experience.
Oh, basically they're saying when
things don't line up.
Yeah, when they don't line up is when it's time to self-reflect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if like something happened at work and you thought you did a great job and your boss was like, fam, we're going to have to have a discussion. And so just taking that time, and it helps us to like really look at the framework that created those experiences.
I mean, is it only helpful to reflect when you just feel like something's off? Is that the main time?
I don't think so. I think that people should reflect often, like every day if you're in your journal practice or your meditation practice or when you're talking to friends, like reflecting on situations, like I think it's just a great vantage point to like sit back and kind of be like, okay, what can I do better? What can I do different? And pretty much anything. It doesn't just have to be like big ethereal, esoteric themes in life. Can just be in everyday, like how can I work better today? How can I be more productive? Like even reflecting in that.
Is it the same as like saying you're checking in with yourself and almost like asking yourself how you feel about things and almost like having a conversation with yourself?
Yeah, I would say that is definitely a form of self-reflection, is like taking time to see how you feel, where you are, checking in, but also, rechecking in with your goals and what you want. Like, is this in alignment with what I want? It's just a time for you to do that, to check in with yourself and to see where everything fits. It can also allow you an opportunity to look at the parts of a situation and see what you can control and what you can't. And so I think that's something that's important too, is like recognizing like I might have done my best in this situation and that's all that I can do. I'm like, okay, well that was enough. And then when I was like reading more studies, Michigan State had a really good one about rumination and reflection. And they were saying like self-reflection helps us learn what we might do differently in the future to help our experiences better match our expectations.
That's what self-reflection is.
And that's what they say. So I really, really like their article. If you're a nerd, like I am, you want to go read about it. It's great. It's easy to find. But then in another article, I actually found a quiz. So if you are a person, is trying to get better, and like I said, it doesn't have to be esoteric or frou-frou, whatever. It can just be like in your work, like how can I be more productive, like trial and error with things. But sometimes you feel like you might be spinning your wheels and you're not sure if you are. There's a quiz to help you get there.
So when you're in this space where you're either feeling like, oh man, I'm not in alignment or things aren't matching up, this is what you can go through.
Yeah, okay. Or if there's like a situation.
Or just like a random quiz where it's like, just stop right now and you can ask these things and you'll see something.
I would say it doesn't have to just be that space. It can include that space. But I would also say like if you're processing anything, and like Alexia said, like patterns, like I think that's important. If you've noticed that something has become a pattern in your life where you start to notice, I think this is a great like check-in with yourself.
So what do you start with?
You start with, how do you feel?
No, but I mean like what am I supposed to, I was asking about what is the situation, because what am I reflecting on is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Oh, and I think that can be,
I choose a situation.
Yeah, you choose a situation. So let's take productivity. Take productivity like, it's another day and you didn't finish your to-do list, you were off track and all of these things. And so you could start there. Or another example is, let's say that your feelings are hurt because someone who you're interested in romantically like isn't reciprocating, but you feel like I might have been here before. And so it kind of becomes a check-in moment. So in either of those situations or in anything that you're going through, the first thing is to ask yourself, like, how do I feel?
Okay.
How do I feel? Get honest with yourself. Ask yourself, like, where are you? How do you feel about it? And the key here is to be honest with yourself. Not how you want to feel, not how you feel like you should feel, but how you actually feel about a situation.
Is there anything to self-reflecting to where it matters, like how quickly you answer, or like the first thing you think of is something you should go with, or is it something you sit down and you like think about? And
I err on the side of like, going with your first mind. So even if you do sit down to write it out, like go with your first mind. If you say, man, I feel really upset. No, well, I don't really have a right to feel upset. I mean, I'm okay, I guess. And you can talk yourself out of like how you're actually feeling about a situation. So I would say go with your first mind, even if you are sitting down to like write it out.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I speak around my feelings very abstractly if I'm talking to somebody about a thing, because I've already had the discussion in my head about, thinking about how I feel, how I should feel, or how I want to feel, or what it could be or should be. And then I've already kind of processed it to where I will be like, yeah, I'm fine. But then it's still like those other real feelings that are there. And I just have like processed all the way through it kind of in a more like logical way. So I think it is probably best to really, like you said, be honest with yourself, but like going with the first thing that you think, because some people, if you're very logical, like you can like outthink yourself out of like even feeling like that emotion in the first place, honestly.
And we're all smart enough, like we know how to make ourselves believe things. And be
Yeah.
like, well, I am upset, but I really shouldn't be. And then, it's not really that big of a deal. Like I'm alive, and no, go with your first mind. And it's okay to own. It's okay to have quote unquote negative feelings, which are only negative because of perspective. It's okay to have feelings that are uncomfortable, and the more easily you're able to admit that to yourself, I think the better you're able to deal with them.
Okay.
And so after you ask that, then ask yourself, is this new or old? So looking at the situation that you're in, have I been here before? Have I been here often? Is this something that keeps coming up in my life? All points to think about. And I don't think that that's a place of judgment. Like, man, I'm here all the time. Like nothing like that, but just being real with yourself. Like, man, this has happened a few times. Like this is important.
Yeah. The next thing to think about is, do I have control over this? So to reflect on the fact that there are certain things you can control, there are certain things you can't. And so kind of taking that space to recognize where your responsibility lies and what control you have in the situation. So you're not overtaking responsibility.
Yep. And building on that, like who has the power in the situation? If you just want someone to understand your side and to hear you out and to affirm you, you're giving your power away in any situation. If it's the need for, them to do something for you to be okay, like I think that's a great point to check in with yourself. So recognizing your own power in any situation and realizing if you're giving it away.
So on the example of productivity that you gave also, with something like that, what is the conversation around who has the power look when it's like, oh man, I didn't finish everything today? Is that where you're kind of recognizing your own power, or that maybe you're giving power to your routine or the schedule or to your job? Or
Yeah, I think it's a check-in place with yourself. Seeing, am I letting people they're like, hey, can we have a call Tuesday at 3? And you're just like, yeah. Instead of looking at your schedule and be like, actually, no, can we do Monday at 1 instead? Owning your power, recognizing where you're not taking that responsibility and that agency for yourself.
Okay.
And then the last one is, am I yearning for closure? So in the sense of, this will probably be more for friendships, relationships, things like that, or even with yourself. Let's say that you messed up and did something that you're not proud of, whatever. Are you waiting to be okay for somebody else to apologize? And this is a little bit of the power, but it's also recognizing that in these situations, sometimes the closure is the end of the situation, and there's not going to be a big movie scene on how to fix it or on how to make it better. That closure is kind of within yourself.
Yeah, that sounds like asking yourself if you have particular expectations that, might not get met. And so closure is one of those big expectations where really when you're thinking about closure, a lot of the times you're just hoping things go a certain way that you had planned. And you're like, one more chance to maybe this will happen the way I want it to happen, versus letting it go and being okay with things.
Yeah, and recognizing that it's okay, wherever it is. And so let's say you take this quiz, whether it is about productivity, your job, or a friendship or relationship, and you're like, I'm actually not stuck in this. This isn't new, or this isn't old. This isn't something. And so here is where you can be more purposeful using self-reflection as a tool. And so recognizing that self-reflection is purposefully processing and thinking about our experiences with the intent of learning something and growing from it.
And so going through that quiz, though, what about those answers tells you which one it is? Or is that what we were trying to figure out?
Yeah, so what we were trying to figure out, and I guess that probably would have been a better lead up than just going into it. So going through that quiz, and then I'll read, or we'll explore looking at self-reflection as a tool, but also what rumination looks like, and then you can think about your answers and which category they might fall under. So if you're going through these and you feel like, no, this isn't something that's continuously happened, this is kind of new, I'm not really, I don't really feel stuck in this, I feel like I have my power, I don't really need anything from anybody else, and you're using it you feel like it's purposefully processing, then it's self-reflection. If you're trying to learn something and you don't feel like you're stuck, then I feel like that's whenever you're using self-reflection.
What is self-reflecting on rumination, though? Is that just more rumination? At what point is it, how do you really say it's reflection? Because I feel like a lot of things, or a lot of people will have these patterns or these places that are kind of constant through your life where you're really still trying to discover it, but it is still like the same type of issue. Is it just that, oh man, I'm in the exact same place as I may have been when I was doing my self-reflection or what I was calling it before, and so maybe there's not really any progress. But like, how are we really measuring if it's helpful?
I would say if you feel like there's something to learn, if you're learning something, if you are taking away action points to grow and to feel better, and maybe not even feel better, but maybe just to grow, because growth doesn't always feel good, right? So thinking about if it's something, if you're looking at it with the intent to learn, or are you looking at it with the intent to feel bad and just sit with something? So I feel like that's probably one tool that it is. Another one where I think it could be self-reflection as opposed to rumination is if you're reframing what happened and trying to move past something.
That's if it's rumination?
That's self-reflection. So if you're able to look at your situation, learn something from it, and then reframe, like maybe your thought process or your perspective or how you're approaching something, and then move forward, I think that's when it's self-reflection.
I think it's just not so linear either, right? Like,
Yeah, no.
And obviously, like, we're talking about it in these terms, but you self-reflect on something, kind of like, yeah, you're, like, it should go this way, or I get this point, but then you still find yourself thinking about that same thing later, and you have that same reflection, and you have to keep reminding yourself. So, like, I feel like to both, it's still about how much time you spend there, like when you're there too. Because I think a lot of times, if I look at my own examples, probably it's rumination that I just snap out of and turn into a reflection. And then that's when I like bounce out of it. But I think it tends to be the same types of issues that I think about until I just don't anymore. In which case, whatever I'm reflecting on is going to be that thing that I'm working on. So it always feels like it's a working on thing. So like to me, it doesn't really feel like that much difference outside of how do I feel coming out of it, or how am I feeling as I'm moving into like next activities or next things. Because sometimes you can really just sit there and be like scroll, or not do anything, or you move into your work, but you still like keep checking something or keep doing something, and so you still just don't snap out of it. And so it's really like when you spend that day in a funk or whatever, like to me, that's rumination. But sometimes I can like feel some kind of way, and then, remember something. Oh yeah, cool. And then you feel good. And, you might think about that for a second or not. That might've been rumination, but it was also like a minute of self-reflection with it. And so it's a quicker bounce out, and the ability to ask yourself those questions that I think were very valuable that you put out there at the beginning. It's like whenever you're thinking if you stop to be aware to go through those questions, whether it's really that you're reflecting or ruminating, which you're probably ruminating, that can maybe snap you out into a place of reflection.
I think they're very inherently tied, and I think it's such a thin line. Like I think I teeter on both, even when I'm trying to be intentional about, reflecting and learning and growing. I think sometimes it's super easy to slip into rumination. And even like using my story from the beginning as an example, like I wasn't trying to ruminate, like I didn't set out with an intention, but I just realized it was really heavy on my heart. But every time I kept talking about it, it was the same thing. And so rumination, before that snap out moment of reflection, is really like thinking over and over again about something, either in the past or possibly like in the future, with negative emotions. So it's just like replaying that scenario like over and over and over again in your head.
Like trying to think of like different things you should have said or could have said, or next time I'm gonna say this, or like, I know I've had full conversations in my head, so like I'll be ready for like the next convo. And and another thing too that I do, but I don't know if this is rumination, but when I'm thinking about something, I tend to go in the full circle thinking all about it, to where I've kind of like formatted like a go-to response around it, or kind of like did all this to come up with like a statement of how I feel about it. But I don't actually, that might not be rumination. That's more so like a wall up thing, I think, because when people talk to me, I don't feel it from right there. Like when people talk to me, I already kind of have like, I know what I'm going to say type thing. So I'll like plan for scenarios, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's rumination, but for me, that could be a type of reflection.
Yeah, probably.
Like being intentional with communication and what you want to get across. Another symptom, another like thing for rumination is what if. And like Lex said, trying to replay all these scenarios, thinking what you should have said, but also what if? Like, what if I, did this? This could have been different. Or this should have been different. Or maybe this could work out. Like, what if this? Or what if this? And if you're playing the what if game, like should have, could have, would have, I feel like that becomes rumination and it stops being beneficial.
Yeah. So what questions are you asking if it's reflection? Because you also, I feel like you said that you are thinking about the different way to do something.
Yeah. So reflection, if I'm going through a situation, what is my intent even right now with rehashing this situation in my mind? Is it to feel bad? Is it to hope that it turned out differently? Is it that maybe that person will apologize now? Or, am I looking at this trying to change myself? Am I trying to heal whatever hurt or upset or whatever might be coming from this? Like, what is my intention with even replaying this scenario over and over again? And we can't stop things from popping up in our head. So even unintentionally or subconsciously, scenarios come back and like that conversation where we could have did this or could have did that. But it's like, how are you being intentional with your thoughts and with your like brain space in that moment?
I like that. So then once you realize you've been ruminating, or if you recognize that it's the same thing over and over you talk about, how do you change that to reflection? Or is it that you have to change it to reflection? Like, how do you stop ruminating, first of all? Maybe, without having to change it. Or is changing it to reflection the key?
I don't think it has to be changing it to reflection, but I do think it's important to get out of rumination whenever we notice that we're like just like going back and forth. Like if we're like stuck in mud, like thinking of a big truck like stuck in the mud, just spinning their wheels. If you notice that, it's important to get out of it. I think the first step to that is awareness. But I don't like just saying awareness because awareness doesn't actually change things. Like if you're aware of your biases, it doesn't actually like help them. But if you notice, like my friend told me, hey, you're ruminating, you're not really reflecting, like it's not helping you. I feel like you're getting stuck like in your head. And I'm like, oh man, that's important. And so that allows me the opportunity to choose to do something different or to try to start changing.
So what happened there? Like when that was said to you, what has been different since then? Whether you've been successful at doing it and or have thought about like any kind of plan or something like this is what I'm going to do or this is what I want to try to catch.
Yeah, it's helped me not ruminate as much. Like it's interesting, and I've just been self-aware.
Like how?
Because I notice when it happens. Like when I start thinking about the situation, I'm like, and I start feeling down, or I start getting upset, or like thinking, man, what if? I'm like, oh wait, no, we don't want to do that. Like not avoiding it, but like, okay, well, how can I think about this situation differently from my point of view? Like I can't change anybody else. I can't change what's happening in the world with the pandemic. I can't change any of that. But what can I change within myself? And so I was like, all right, well, the way that I'm looking at this situation, like where can I change my perception or where can I forgive regardless if I get an apology or not? And so just like it's given me a better, like a detector. So now I notice when I'm doing it and I notice when those feelings creep up and then I can stop it by being more intentional with my thoughts.
So one of the biggest thing is recognizing when it's happening. Or to be conscious of it happening or aware of it happening. There's one girl that I follow on Twitter. She always is tweeting like over and over. And I say over and over, not as in like it's back to back through the day, but like when she tweets, like most of her tweets are about a situation. And it's like, man, one day I'll stop thinking about this or like, I'm always thinking about this or, gosh, I wish it sucks that, they'll never hurt as much as I hurt. And like you can see, like, it's like all the time, the same thing. And then I think about it and it's like, all right, you are very affected when something happens and that's all you can think about. Like, that's all she's thinking about all the time. And so I always kind of think about like, well, what can you say to somebody like that? Because, number one, to recognize, like I feel like somebody has probably called her out on it before, but like if you can recognize it, like one thing I would do is like literally not write that down or like not type that out or not say that out loud as one thing. Like, but that doesn't change you feeling it. But one thing I would do is like recognize it and like not say that thing. Like I'll notice if I'm gonna say the same thing or if it's like, all right, I'm like always in a particular space or whatever, and then it's time to like analyze it. But okay, you recognize it. Maybe you didn't say it out loud, or you said, "Ooh, that's not, the space I want to be in." Now what? Because to now think about not talking about it or not thinking about it, you're still thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's a tough place, and I feel like we've all been there at some point for something. But I would say the first is to break that cycle. So one thing you can do to do that is to try to be present, because whenever we're ruminating on something, our brains tend to be somewhere else. They are not in the present moment. And so bringing yourself back to the present moment, and we've talked about this a little bit with some meditation techniques with like looking around and seeing what is around you and physically bringing yourself back to the space. But also thinking like maybe you can meditate. Like maybe whenever that happens, you just start to notice how your breath feels. Maybe you count, 4 on your inhale, 4 on your exhale, just physically bringing yourself back to the space. And they talk about that a lot in like Tony Robbins and different coaches, things like emotions get stuck in our bodies. And if we don't move, then they stay there. So maybe even, and it sounds silly, but it actually works, is to stand up and shake it out, or to dance, or to stretch, or to move, like walk around for a second, maybe go for a walk and try to look around outside and look at the birds, just to bring yourself back to life. Because anytime you're ruminating, you're either stuck in the present, or not the present, in the past or the future.
Yeah, that works well. I see that as part of my process. I'll stop for a second, I'll breathe, I'll move a little bit. And then I think the biggest thing is focusing your attention elsewhere. Like you can't just like sit there and like, oh, I'm gonna read this self-help book and I'm gonna write and I'm gonna journal and I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna do this. And then you're spending the whole day on that thing. I think that it's helpful to move into something else, whether it's a project you're working on, something else you have to do, calling somebody or talking to somebody else. So you're talking about other things to get your attention onto something else. And you may have to like jolt yourself out of it in that moment by just really diving into something.
And I love that, using that intention. Like, what does it say? Energy goes where, or emotions go where energy flows, something like that. And so it's like
Energy flows where attention goes, or
something like that. So doing that and just being aware. Another one is attaching. So allowing yourself more so what Alexi said, but some distance from the situation. Like talk about other things, watch a movie, read a book. Try to just give yourself some space. And if you find yourself still stuck when trying to detach, like think about, like in this situation, what you can and can't control, and see where the power is.
And then at some point you have to let go of it, whether it's for the day. I think you could probably try, and it could be powerful to like literally like say like, all right, I'm letting go of this for right now. I'm letting go of this for the next couple hours or for the day. Today I choose to let go of things and like not let things stick on me. And if you really say those things out loud, make that as frou-frou as it kind of sounds, like you're really commanding your body to like in your mind to do a thing. And it is a struggle, but to let go of those thoughts, like take a while, like in the long run when you're ruminating around an issue. But letting go and along with the detachment is a part of that acceptance of, I'm not going to fight against the way things are right now. Like let things flow how they are. But where do I need to be right now? What does my attention need to be on right now? And a lot of times I feel like rumination is us not giving ourselves enough attention. And we're putting too much attention on other people, and we're leaving an absence of ourselves. When you're worried about that person who's not calling, or like all you're thinking about is, man, I wonder what he's doing on Twitter. It's like, no, like what could I be doing right now? You're not living your own life. And so to let it go and to let things just flow around you is like, all right, that's that person's life. Or maybe in the case of like you not following up with your work or something you ruminate around with yourself, it's like, okay, but now sitting here is not helping that. So let's let that go and let's move on to the next thing. So really letting go allows you to focus on your needs, which you're probably mistaken as taking care of other people, but you're not taking care of yourself. And so to restructure and refocus your thoughts around what you need in this time and what's important to you, which is probably the work you should be doing or whatever thing you're supposed to be working on while you're sitting here like waiting around for a call, is going to really build your confidence and really take you to another place where I'm too busy to deal with this bullshit, or I'm not even really thinking about that because my shit is popping right now.
Popping.
So I that's one thing I've learned is like with all the rumination, even sometimes with the reflection, which I guess is maybe because it was rumination and not real reflection, is that all this prep, all this planning, all this thinking is really you escaping, like doing what you need to do, which is really the key to making you feel so much better and not worry about what other people are doing because you're more worried about what's going on with you.
Ooh, I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. All of those things. And the quote is where focus goes, energy flows.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be intentional with that, like Alexia said. And my last question is anytime I feel myself thinking about things or like possibly starting to ruminate, I'm like, is this going to help me today? Like, is this who I want to be today? Is this how I want to be today? Is this helping my business, my purpose, my friends, my life? No? All right. Well, let me just come back to this then. Or not.
Yeah, it's a constant challenge, but as long as you are aware and challenging it, like you can move forward. And kind of the less you think and the more you just like move, it kind of just gets out of the way. So it's one of those things you got to try it to believe us, maybe.
Yeah,
try it.
Try it. Ask yourself
try to
these
talk
questions.
to it and be like, oh, nah, I'm thinking about the same thing. Bye.
Yeah, where I feel, no, I'm not getting stuck in this today. I would love for y'all to reply to us, CC Fierce Lextopia, on Instagram stories, Carlie's Couch. Let us know, like, are you reflecting? Are you ruminating? How have you noticed that like maybe impacts your day or your life or where you are?
And this week, my computer's acting crazy. This week, our question is, what are you holding on to that you can let go of?
Dun, dun, dun.
I can let go of I would say expectations of other people, and in the same way there are people that I hope they'll do certain things and they don't be, so I guess that's probably what I should let go of. Worrying about controlling other people.
Man, I'm going to second that, but then also add defensiveness. Since Lex has been talking about the 7 spiritual laws of success, I've actually been practicing defenselessness in my life, and it's cool to see how different I can show up in situations where I used to not be able to do that.
Yeah, that's good. It's cool when you start to catch yourself doing it too, where every time somebody says something, you have to like, re-explain yourself.
Yeah, no, I was like, I don't need this shit.
Right. Thank you guys for listening this week. We appreciate it as always. 5 stars. Leave us a review. Share this episode with somebody if there is a friend or anybody that you know and you're like, man, I kind of noticed they talk about the same things. Maybe this will help them. Please share the episode and continue to spread the love.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.